this video, we're going to talk about scaling HR. How does HR help companies grow and do the right things at the right time? That's coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams and the host of HR Shop Talk. On this show, you get expert insight into all kinds of things that have to do with HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen, or you can subscribe to the podcast to keep learning from my smart and experienced guests. Today, my guest is Maysa Hawwash. Maysa is the owner of ScaleX, which specializes in helping companies scale their businesses by building and growing diverse and talented teams. Hi, Maysa.
Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you. This is going to be an interesting discussion. I know we're going to talk mostly about growth, but this sort of started with this discussion around fractional HR. So can you talk about that? What is fractional HR and how does it help organizations grow?
So fractional HR is actually a term that is being used a lot more often these days. It's very popular in the community of startups.
Yes.
And the reason why it became popular is because, as startups are growing, their needs are not necessarily full-time resources. So they came up with this term to get the support they need in a fractional kind of way, which means basically rather than hiring an entire team, you get access to the support, specialized support in a part-time capacity. And that's exactly what it means. The word fractional means part-time.
Yeah. So how is that different from consulting?
It's different from consulting because consulting tends to support certain projects. So you're in, you do a project and you're out. Fractional is actually just literally part of the team, but on a part-time basis.
Okay.
So the difference is that, people who offer fractional support, they become more embedded in the culture. They understand the organization at a much deeper, more intimate level.
Right.
And then they can, provide services that are more general in nature.
Speaking about this growth, so what happens to organizations who don't scale up effectively? Can you talk about some of what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard this term, if you're not growing, you're dying, really. This economy encourages growth. Growth, comes in economies of scale. It comes in more innovation. So companies that are not growing fast, they're either not growing because they're not able to get to the market, or because they're just not building the infrastructure that's going to help them to grow. And either scenarios are not great. So if you're not growing, you're dying. Mm-hmm. And so, it's in most organizations' best interest is to focus on growth and scale. And, I think we're going to talk about what that looks like from a people perspective. But basically, you're not growing, you're most likely not relevant in this market's place.
Yeah, you can't just sort of exist, maybe you're I don't know, maybe like a small mechanic shop and you just want to be a small mechanic shop.
You can, absolutely. That could be part of your plan, is to exist and stay small, right. Maybe be acquired. That's a great exit strategy, or right. Stay small. But to compete in this market, scale actually really helps. It gives you access to more resources. It gives you access to more knowledge and expertise. So you can totally stay small, but know that your competitive advantage is very limited, and you may be subject to people acquiring you. Right. And if that's part of your plan, then by all means, you should stick to it.
Right. So you say that growth enables more knowledge and expertise. Talk to me about that. How does that work?
Yeah, because with growth comes a lot of exciting things, new markets, new talents, new expertise. To grow effectively, you're constantly evolving and innovating. So if that is your game, then you need to do it properly, because, to get to scale, there's a few things that need to happen for you to be able to do that sustainably.
Shifting a little bit of gears to HR, what focus and behaviors are typical of growth-focused HR? What are the HR people doing, thinking about?
When companies are scaling?
Yes.
Yeah. So HR's role in helping companies scale, I want to say like probably the most important after maybe the CEO. I'm just going to use this bold statement because to scale properly, it's about people. If you don't have the right people process, if you don't know what it takes to scale and to help your company grow with you, then you're not going to be able to achieve that growth successfully. So for me, the behavior of HR professionals that are focused on growth is really about enabling leadership to get out of its own way and to build the systems that's going to create the scale.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, we work with a lot of different companies, a lot of founders, and founders are founders for a reason. They're passionate about something, right? Whether it's a product, a problem they're passionate about solving. So they get into this role and they innovate and they create this perfect storm of a company, right? And then they get to a point, maybe like 20 people, and then it becomes too complex. All of a sudden, the founder cannot bring scale because the reason what got them there is that initial idea and the innovation. But what they don't realize is to grow and to accelerate that growth, now they need to systemize. They need to build leadership teams, and they need to sometimes step aside and have somebody else lead the organization. So there's these examples of founders becoming their own bottlenecks.
Right.
And this is where we come into place. This is an exciting role that we play in really demystifying this whole process of growth. Like, what is the growth target? Who's going to lead this growth? Is the founder the right person to lead? What is the vision? What is the vision of this leader? How does that actually translate into steps for growth? So that's what we've seen in the market. And I think, and we'll talk about the different stages, but again, like moving from 20 to 50 is a huge step. So what does that look like? And then from 50 to 100. So the role that HR plays is absolutely critical. And I dare to say that if you don't have the right HR support system, you're not gonna make it. You're gonna be like spending so much time just trying to troubleshoot and like reinventing the wheel all the time.
In there, you talked about systemizing, building leaderships, developing vision, presumably mission, vision, values is the whole package there. Is that something that you are assisting owners through?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really creating this roadmap. And the roadmap is, how do we get you from 20 people to 50 people? What does that look like? What is the change process? Very important to understand roles and responsibilities, accountabilities. And then if you have a vision, can you actually articulate that vision? Do people even understand what your vision is? As you move and you start hiring people, what does that onboarding process look like? How do you set them up for success? Do you have the right leadership team? And if you don't, what does the leadership team look like that's going to take you to that future state? So there's a lot of different moving parts, and we work very closely with founders to help them uncover all these pockets of opportunity within the organization.
Okay.
And again, like bottleneck is a huge issue for startups.
Yeah.
And founders typically play that bottleneck. Sometimes, even with my own company, because we're scaling, I'm very conscious of this. Like, am I being the bottleneck? Do I need to step aside and bring another team to systemize? Like, what are those different moving parts that I am not aware of that somebody else might be better at than me? So like the ego needs to get out of the way, right? In order for you to create a sustainable and a scalable business.
If this intrigued you, subscribe to see all the episodes and comment. Are you in a growing company, and what has that been like for you? Let us know in the comment section below. Let's dig into some of what you just said. You said that the 20 to 50, the 50 to 100, those are some key points. What are some of the activities associated with those changes?
So, when you're a small business, basically your focus is on, like, from an HR perspective, is strictly on talent. How do we hire quickly? How do we onboard people? Okay. Roles and responsibility, performance management, all of those things are foundations. So you start there, get that right, and then you can move to the next step.
Are you doing those things at that 0 to 20 employee level?
Yeah, and sometimes and the talent focus continues as the company grows. Like it's not like you move on to the next thing and forget about talent, but you start there. You start by building the foundation for talent, because talent market is very competitive. It's hard to get the talent when you need it. If you don't have a what I call a proactive talent acquisition process, then you're just not gonna be able to compete. So we start there, we get that part right. You have a great, smooth onboarding process. People understand their roles and responsibilities. They come to a nice culture, and you have this nurturing environment. And then what do you need next? Now you're growing fast and you have those great teams. You need leaders, naturally. So then we move into focusing on building leadership capability. Whether you promote people from within or hire from outside, that leadership layer is what's going to really accelerate your growth, because leaders can engage teams, motivate teams, take your vision, and then articulate it in a way that makes sense to the people. So this is where you start seeing engagement, culture, people, creating those environments where there's innovation and collaboration. So the next thing we do effectively is really focusing on that leadership, building it, developing it, nurturing it, even building the brand of leadership in organizations.
So now how many employees do you have at this point?
Between 50 to 100.
Okay.
Now what do you do? Even before that, before you even get to 100, now you need to start making decisions more effectively. What does that look like? We look at the structure of your company. Does your company have a structure that enables you to make decisions quickly and effectively? Or back to the whole bottleneck conversation. Where are your bottlenecks? Can we remove that? Can we build a structure within the company, whether it's flat or not flat, it doesn't matter. But the structure has to enable you to make decisions quickly. That's number one. The other thing is, what kind of technology are you using? Are you leveraging systems and technologies to kind of build collaboration, to do the work in a more effective way? This is where we start thinking about your whether it's HR systems, other systems, we start looking at that. And now you have a well-oiled machine, right? Like you have your teams, you have your leaders, you have your systems. Now we can say, okay, you are building those repeatable processes. You can anticipate growth. You can really forecast your headcount more effectively. Your leaders understand what their roles and responsibilities are, and that translates into great cultures. And then we're out of business, which is the best part, is like when companies get to that point, now it's time for them to build their teams internally. And we help them build their HR teams. And so, building the HR teams means, what's the HR capability that you need? What does the HR department look like? And literally that's it. This is when our role is done. We're out. We're kind of like, we go in there, we help grow the company, and then we're building a sustainable growth process, which is perfect.
I have a couple follow-up questions from that. You talked about setting up processes or systems so they can make decisions quickly and effectively. How do you do that? Like, what is that?
It could be as simple as, what do we do if, right? So first of all, who has the signing authority on what? Maybe it's a budget. If you're hiring somebody new, let's just use HR as an example, who makes that decision? Who makes that call on when do we hire? What kind of people do we hire? What are their salaries? All the whole package. And then, what does the recruitment process look like? Who are involved in recruitment? Like, it's all about process. The better the process, the less complex and the more, reliable the process, the better your life will be as a leader.
So many people, are really cynical about process, but
yeah, me too. You need it. Like, I am not a process-driven person at all. But now, as I'm scaling my company, I look for people who are exceptional at process, because I know how important it is. Like, if you don't have a process, we're just going to be chasing every little thing. And, you have wasted energy on stupid mistakes, really, like, because you don't have a process. You reinvent the wheel every single time, and like, why?
Yeah. The other thing you talked about was making sure the right technology is in place. That is not usually an HR thing. So talk to me about that.
It's not. And this is why we're a little different. We're just interested in technology, just naturally interested in technology. And I'm a big believer that technology enables functions. It just enables things. Whether it's managing your client relationships or managing your employee relationships. HR systems are very powerful tools that you can use to predict certain things. You can forecast more effectively. You can streamline so much of your work, like all the paperwork can be streamlined, automated. Like, so why? Like, why not do it, right? So for me, it's a time saver. It's a way to be more effective. It's a way to get more insights from the business. You need data, like you need data to make decisions, and technology provides you with that ability.
When you're courting a client, you've got someone who's maybe interested in your services. What do you tell them?
That's a good question. Actually, it's different for every client, but the most common pain point for clients, they're growing fast and they just can't keep up, right? And typically people problems are the biggest pain for those founders because they just literally deal with people problems nonstop. So for us, the questions they ask us are, how can you help me and how quickly?
And in what senses, what elements of HR?
So I'll tell you a little bit about how ScaleX's team is structured and how we come in and help our clients. So typically we have an HR lead, an HR consultant supporting each of our clients. And that person takes care of everything to do with HR. Processes, compensation, analysis, for example, if they needed performance management, roles and responsibilities. And then the whole founder whisperer role, which is really like helping them get out of their own way and identifying the bottlenecks. That's one specialization. And the other thing is recruitment. We have excellent recruiters on the team who are fractional, and they join those companies on a fractional basis, and they basically manage everything recruitment. From creating the job description to posting the job if it's posted, to sourcing actively passive candidates, all of the above, negotiating, building the employer brand, all of those things are done by our recruiters. So you have specializations, right? Like you have the HR stuff, you have the recruitment part, and then some clients need administration. So we have coordinators that do HR administration, benefit administration, literally anything that is required by the client, we have the capability to deliver.
You talk about all the things that this HR consultant does. I mean, it's a very, very broad skill set. How do you find them?
Hard. And if I'm able to advertise, I'm hiring. If any of this sounds great, please call me. I look for creative problem solvers. HR skills are about problem solving and, believe it or not, selling change, selling ideas, selling and influencing. So it is really hard to find the people who are willing to work with multiple clients and are extremely disciplined and organized to manage multiple clients, but at the same time have the confidence and the assertiveness to say no when they need to and explain why. And we push back all the time. So our job is not just to come in and give here's the policy, good luck, right? It's like, this is the policy, this is what it actually means, this is what this is going to mean to you, these are the changes that you need to make, and by the way, we can help you implement them. So it's a lot of change management, a lot of and I can't tell you how important confidence is. Confidence not only in the knowledge that we have, but in our ability to influence and just kind of build those strong relationships.
So just asked about saying you're looking for people. What market are you in?
Anywhere in Canada. We have US clients as well.
Okay. So let's say you or your people are providing fractional HR support to a company. You're in the business of scaling, but that company isn't growing? What do you do?
Our tagline is basically we help you scale up or down. Sometimes you have to scale down. Like it's unfortunate, but it's a cycle, right? Like business is cyclical, and sometimes our clients are scaling down. We do that too. I mean, we're passionate about growth, but we know it's not linear. Like you don't just grow like this. Sometimes you grow like this.
Right.
Like everybody's growth cycle is different. So we do both. We help clients and make those tough decisions sometimes, and we support that transformation or the change.
All right. So final question here. What advice do you have for HR people who want to grow, to want to drive growth in their own organization?
Ask a lot of questions, challenge the leadership to define what actually growth looks like, and then take that information and then turn it into actions. Our approach to this is like every stage of your growth, you need to upgrade something. We call it upgrading your people operating system, POS. You upgrade your phone because you want it to work faster. You upgrade your operating system because you want your organization to move faster. So every step of the way, there's an upgrade that needs to happen, and it's not comfortable and it's not fun in most cases. So I encourage HR professionals to ask those tough questions, define the accountabilities, define what actually is meant by growth, and then taking that and translating that into people outcomes. You really need to become a project manager in some cases to manage this as a project.
Right. You talk about defining growth, and I know that was supposed to be the last question, but I can't help myself. You talk about defining growth. How do you define growth?
It means different things to different people. It could be growth in headcount. It could be growth in revenue. Like, what's your revenue target? Are you going into a new market, by the way? Like, what does that look like? Do you even understand what this new market looks like? Maybe for commercial side of things, you do. But what are the people implications? Every business decision has a people decision that you need to think about. So basically, it's so the growth could mean 100 different things for 100 different companies, right? But there is always a people component, and you can't ignore that. That's why HR is the hero.
Yay. All right. Thanks, Maysa. That was so informative. I did an episode on somewhat more regular HR consulting, and that link is right here. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.